Chapter 10. 1 month later. White House, 2036.
The suite was quiet but charged, like the hush before ignition. Luke stood at the table, flipping through the final slide deck one last time. Daniel leaned against the far wall, arms folded, unreadable. Outside the tinted window, the south lawn shimmered under a clean blue morning. Luke glanced over. 40 minutes. Daniel nodded absently. A knock at the door. Luke turned as it cracked open. A staffer peeked in. "Tracy Jackson's here. She asked to speak with Mr. Taylor. Just him." Daniel's brow twitched. Luke looked between them, then closed the binder and stepped out without a word. Tracy stepped inside. Her dress uniform was crisp, her posture official, but when their eyes met, all that peeled away. She looked unsure. Daniel didn't move. "You didn't have to come," he said. "I already know." She gave a faint wince. "Figured you did." He pushed off the wall and walked toward the table, not quite looking at her. "It's fine, Tracy. Really, congratulations." Tracy gave him the side eye. "Congratulations? Really, Daniel, you say that like you don't really understand what is happening here." Daniel responded, "Oh, I understand. You are getting married. I mean, I get it. I'm 16 and you are a 30-year-old lesbian. There was no version of us that ended in a white picket fence." Tracy snorted but nodded. Daniel continued, "I never thought we were anything but what we were, but I let myself hope that we could be like that forever. But you are a wonderful person, and you deserve to have happiness in every form you want it. I want that for you, so I'll miss you, but I am happy for you." Tracy shook her head. "For a genius, you are an idiot." "I didn't come to say goodbye," she said quietly. "I came to tell you that nothing's changing. Not between us." Daniel turned, finally meeting her eyes. "You're marrying someone else." "I'm marrying someone who understands what you mean to me, who isn't threatened by it, who knows I still need you in my life." His voice dropped. "You sure she's okay with that?" "She knows everything," Tracy said. "The hospital, the sleepless nights, why I couldn't let go, even when there wasn't anything romantic. And she wants to meet you." His guard cracked, just a little. "She does?" "She's curious, maybe a little intimidated, but she gets it. She knows I wouldn't be who I am without you." Daniel sank into a chair. "I thought you were pulling away." "I was scared," she admitted, "that you'd see the ring and think I was closing a door. But Daniel, there will always be space for you." A silence stretched between them. Dense, unspoken, familiar. "You could have told me sooner," he said. "I know, that one's on me." He exhaled, rubbing his neck. "So now what?" Tracy smiled. "Now you and Luke walk into that room and knock the wind out of the entire damn government. Then after, you meet the woman who's crazy enough to want both of us in her life." Daniel laughed, short and soft but real. "All right, deal." A knock at the door. Luke's voice. "We're up in 10. Tracy brushed a hand across Daniel's shoulder. "Go make history, Commander." Daniel stood steady now. "Only if you stay in it." Her smile didn't falter. "I'm not going anywhere."
40 minutes later. Air Force presentation.
3-star General Brenner stands stiffly at the podium, flanked by a holographic display of orbital defense platforms. "Our plan emphasizes orbital supremacy," he says. "Retrofitted ICBMs, long-range kinetic interceptors, satellite-guided laser systems." The visuals are sharp: sleek aerospace hardware, drone swarms, and high-altitude deterrence. The Air Force proposes a defense grid that prioritizes space-to-space engagements. We hold the high ground. Daniel leans to Luke in the audience row, murmurs, "High ground only works if you can see your enemy." Luke nods grimly. The room applauds politely.
Army presentation.
A rotund general with steel gray hair, General McKinney, takes the stage next. Our proposal accepts the inevitability of invasion. We focus on homeland fortification, underground installations, mobile artillery convoys, and tactical biowarfare enhancements, already under prototype. Tracy's jaw tightens. Daniel says nothing. McKinney gestures toward a projected map. Most civilians would relocate to subterranean zones. Defense lines here, here, and here. We make them bleed for every inch of dirt. The visuals show drone-patrolled trenches, magnetic mines, and exosuit infantry, like a gritty sci-fi D-Day. Some nods, some frowns. Daniel whispers to Luke again. They're preparing for extinction with better boots.
Navy presentation.
Admiral Weston walks with poise and cold confidence. The Navy believes the oceans are humanity's most defensible domain. We propose shifting civilization to mobile sea platforms. The holomap shifts to massive floating cities, flanked by supercarrier fleets. We arm every ship with hypersonic torpedoes, suborbital railguns, and oceanic decoy systems. Our research suggests sea-based living will likely offer thermal concealment from most alien sensor types. A murmur moves through the room. It's innovative, but bleak. Daniel. Floating caskets. Tracy mutters, expensive ones. Luke's eyes never leave the stage.
Marine Corps presentation.
General Ochoa, built like a mountain, steps forward next. Our plan is simple, he says. Kill anything that lands. The screen behind him fills with battle simulations. Marines in mechanized armor, vertical tank drops, atmospheric dogfights. It's gritty, brutal, undeniably badass. We build war zones around every major city. We go guerrilla, hit and vanish, make Earth a meat grinder they regret stepping into. Cheers from a few war hawks, but the president remains still. Daniel. They're romanticizing suicide missions. Luke finally replies, that's what happens when you don't have a real plan. A long silence settles in the room. Then a voice announces from the podium, Space Force, you're up. The chamber is hushed. The last of the Marine brass take their seats as Admiral Jackson rises from the front row. His polished shoes echo on the stone floor as he steps up to the podium, 5 stars glinting under the recessed lights. He surveys the room, the president, her joint chiefs, civilian defense advisors, the Senate Oversight Committee. They're tired, cautious. No one expects a miracle. He clears his throat. The final doctrine presentation comes from the United States Space Force. A pause. My team has spent the last 6 months preparing for this moment. I am proud to introduce the man who developed the doctrine you're about to see, General Luke Taylor. Polite applause. Cameras flash. Luke rises smoothly from his chair and makes his way to the stage. Daniel does not move. Admiral Jackson continues. General Taylor's support staff includes Commander Tracy Jackson and civilian consultant Daniel Taylor. Yes, Tracy is my daughter, and yes, Daniel is Luke's brother. While some may question the appropriateness of those relationships within a military command structure, I do not. I've never had a staff work harder or more relentlessly, and I believe it's because they're not doing this for a paycheck or for their careers. They're doing it for each other. That lands. Several heads tilt with new interest. Luke steps up to the podium. Tracy joins him, her uniform impeccable, expression unreadable. They exchange a glance, then both turn to Daniel. He sits silently in the front row. No badge, no nameplate, just a visitor tag clipped to a borrowed blazer. They nod. That's all they're allowed. Daniel returns it, cool, composed, unreadable. Inside, he's absorbing every humiliation. Because this was the deal. The lie he agreed to live. The shadow he agreed to wear. From the head of the table, President Hart folds her hands beneath her chin. Well, she says, eyes sharp but curious, let's see what the first family of space has come up with. Luke straightens. Tracy cues the first hologram. And history begins. Our doctrine, Madam President, Luke begins, his voice steady, projecting confidence he doesn't entirely feel, is not about fighting in space. It's about fighting for Earth. And that means we don't meet them in orbit, we let them come to us. Daniel watched the holoscreens, a familiar hum of energy thrumming through him. He saw the Earth, a pale blue marble threatened by encroaching alien fleets. He saw the proposed counter-strategy, not of brute force, but of calculated vulnerability. Luke's voice, amplified through the room, was the voice of a general, crisp and decisive. Tracy stood beside him, a silent, supportive presence, her eyes occasionally flicking to Daniel. Luke adjusts the mic slightly, hands steady, voice calm. Madam President, generals, senators, distinguished guests. He pauses, lets the room settle. The doctrine you're about to see is not a proposal. It is not a theory. It is a response. A measured, calculated, and executable response to the single greatest threat ever posed to the sovereignty of this planet. He gestures, and the lights dim. A holographic display bursts to life, an elegant rendering of Earth from orbit, surrounded by digital projections of theorized alien capabilities, gravimetric distortions, cloaked insertion paths, advanced orbital arrays. Luke continues. We are not facing an enemy we can outgun. They have crossed star systems, bent gravity to their will. Their technological edge isn't measured in decades. It's measured in civilizations. A quiet ripple moves through the room. But superior tech is not invincibility. Their advantage is based on two assumptions: orbital supremacy and perfect sensor telemetry. Our doctrine removes both. Tracy steps forward. This is not Independence Day, she says bluntly. We're not uploading a virus to an alien mothership. We're not dogfighting in space with experimental jets. This doctrine is grounded in reality, our physics, our infrastructure, our capability, and it starts by conceding what cannot be defended. She nods to Luke. He speaks again. We give them the sky. Another beat. Then we kill them from the dirt. The hologram shifts. A stylized atmospheric map appears, showing a web of energy distortion spreading from several dozen terrestrial points. The dispersion field. Phase 1, Luke explains, a global dispersion grid. We blind their orbital sensors. No satellite readings, no visual targeting. They'll see Earth as a ghost, empty, featureless, unreadable. That forces a single, tactical decision. Tracy again. They land. The simulation zooms, displaying sleek alien ships descending toward Earth. Phase 2, Luke says. We bait them. The dispersion field's distribution hubs become high-value targets. They'll move to disable the grid, and we let them. Because waiting around each of those nodes is what we call a thunderwell. Now Daniel's vision fills the room. Schematic after schematic appears. Vertical shafts deep into the Earth, cooling towers, seismically shielded launch chambers, nuclear pressure cores, and precision-stacked payloads of heavy metal rods. Tracy's voice softens, but it carries. The Thunderwell is not a missile. It is not a warhead. It is a volcano, pointed at the enemy. The simulation shows one fire, a blinding vertical lance of energy, then the launch of several tungsten rods arcing into the descending alien craft. Luke steps forward again. No warning, no intercept, no signature. Kinetic impact, Mach 20. 100 tons of inert metal becomes a city killer. But we don't hit cities. We hit them. The room is silent. No shifting, no coughing. Just silence. Tracy finishes the section. 50 to 60 Thunderwells, global coverage, synchronized detonation, ground-based decapitation strike. Survivors are mopped up by conventional forces, Air Force, Navy, Marines. We force them into a fight they didn't plan for. On our terms, on our turf. Luke turns back to the table. We believe this doctrine is our best, and possibly only, chance at victory. Admiral Jackson stands, clapping slowly, a single resonant sound in the stunned silence. A doctrine born of necessity, he says, his voice composed but resonant, and executed through a level of coordination and dedication I've never seen in my 4 decades of service. He takes a step forward, hands clasped behind his back. This strategy didn't come from any single genius or miracle. It came from the convergence of disciplines: Air Force, Naval, Intelligence, Engineering, and from a team willing to break away from traditional thinking when tradition no longer applied. He glances briefly toward Luke, Tracy, and Daniel, but doesn't linger. "I stand by every part of this doctrine," he continues. "It is brutal, it is unorthodox, but it gives us something no other proposal here today has given us: a path to survival." He turns to the president and offers a respectful nod. "Madam President, I yield the floor for questions." The president returns the nod but says nothing for a moment. She glances toward her staff, then toward the gathered senators, chiefs of staff, and branch commanders. "You've all heard the proposals," she says, her voice calm and deliberate. "Each offers something different: containment, deterrence, evacuation, orbital defense. But this one speaks directly to the cost of losing the skies." She closes the portfolio in front of her. "We'll take questions now." The room comes back to life, a flurry of movement as hands rise, aides lean in, and the first wave of skepticism prepares to crash. But none of the core team flinch. Luke straightens his posture. Tracy checks her notes. And Daniel remains silent in the corner of the room, unseen by history, but watching as the doctrine he built begins to shape it.
2 hours later, in a Washington, D.C. hotel lobby.
The hotel conference room was silent except for the soft ticking of a wall clock and the faint hum of traffic below. Luke sat with his arms folded, pacing in his mind. Tracy stood by the window, pretending to be interested in the city skyline, while Daniel sat alone at the table, tablet off, fingers steepled under his chin. Then the door opened. Admiral Jackson stepped inside, face unreadable, cap tucked under his arm. "Well," he said, letting the word hang like a gavel drop, "that didn't go exactly as expected." All three turned toward him. He took a slow breath. "We didn't guard the secret about Daniel as tightly as we thought. Some of the senators noticed, enough to ask questions the president couldn't ignore." Tracy's face fell. Luke's jaw tightened. Jackson held up a hand. "She's decided to relieve me of my command title in the Navy." Silence. Tracy blinked, stunned. "Dad?" "I know," he said gently, brushing a hand over her shoulder. "It stings. I've been in uniform longer than either of you have been alive." Daniel leaned back, eyes narrowing. But then the Admiral smiled. "She's appointed me the permanent commander of the United States Space Force." The air in the room shifted instantly. Tracy's mouth fell open. Luke sat up straighter. Jackson's grin widened. "And as of this morning, both of your transfers to Space Force have been signed and approved. Congratulations, Colonel Jackson. And General Taylor, you're now General Taylor forever." Luke actually laughed, a breathless, disbelieving sound. Tracy looked at Daniel, eyes full of disbelief and rising joy. "We did it." Jackson nodded. "The other Joint Chiefs are being notified now. Pending final confirmation from the Senate Committee, Space Force will assume leadership jurisdiction over orbital defense and joint military coordination." He turned to Daniel. "Which means we are the tip of the spear now. Your doctrine is the foundation of the military of tomorrow." Daniel didn't smile. Not fully. But there was pride in his eyes, quiet and hard-earned. Jackson clapped a hand on his shoulder. "We did it, son. We changed everything."
Back in 2040.
Lisa smiled. Admiral Jackson was right. Though technically that was when he became General Jackson. That changed everything. The last 6 months had been a whirlwind, but the next 18 those were a different story. Congress approved funding for the Thunderwell project. Though they renamed it Thunderstruck, the plan was a resounding success. Daniel's insights were invaluable to the Space Force, transforming it into the dominant branch of the U.S. military. "I don't know what is going to happen over the next few days, but if we prevail, it will be because of the work your uncle did during that time." But he was still forced to remain behind the scenes. in your father's shadow, and after a while, even Luke started to believe the narrative. Libby leaned forward, her eyes wide with anticipation. What happened next, Mom? Lisa's shoulders slumped, a weight of old regret settling into her voice. What happened next was a moment that would haunt our family forever. It is something your father never got over. It's why he insisted on being out there today. Luke was forced to choose between his loyalty to Daniel and his military duty. And because of the pressure Caroline and I had put on him 2 years earlier, he chose the flag and his career over his brother. And nothing was ever the same after that. Lisa continued. After 2 years, General Jackson decided that Daniel was no longer required and that his continued presence would only be a distraction. So they pulled him from the project quietly. Daniel came back to the farm and disappeared from public life without ever letting the world know the identity of the architect of its salvation.